I am familiar with the book. I've read it.
This is an amazing book.
This book is hard to find.
If you try to buy it on eBay, you're talking about $100 or more.
This book is really about how to manage and get the best out of people.
Every football coach should have it. I'd be surprised if they don't.
What I learned from reading this book would be some of the things behind the scenes that, I would have no way of knowing unless they were explained to me.
As close to scripture as you can get for a coach, right?
It's the Bible of football coaching.
It's a great book. It should be required reading for every football coach.
You're going to be a football player when you grow up.
Today is the best day of your life. Believe it.
He might be the finest quarterback produced in the last 10 years.
He's a day like that. That's all I need.
Fortunately for me, I didn't lose my life. I didn't lose my job. Football convinced me that life is a team game.
Rest of your life, nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
It's been said that we are all authors of our own life story. Some are triumphs, some tragedies. Some collect dust, some become bestsellers. Like most, the book of Bill Walsh has its ups and downs. But in the end, his story is one of the NFL's greatest masterpieces. He was the author of a franchise's unlikely revival.
We're just a group of young players that have excellent chemistry together.
The creator of the West Coast offense.
As Paul Brown would say, we're a precision machine.
A dramatist who scripted the greatest quarterback controversy in NFL history.
We're going to have to select between Steve Young and Joe Montana. That's a critical area for us.
A man nicknamed the Genius after 3 Super Bowl championships.
Was this the final game on the sideline for a great coach, Bill Walsh?
Yet page after page, he remained his own worst critic.
I wish I'd have enjoyed it more because those were the truly golden years.
A lesser-known chapter of his career is a monumental book titled Finding the Winning Edge, written by Walsh 8 years after his retirement as head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. To know the book is to know the man.
This is everything that this guy talked to me about.
I can't read it cover to cover. There's places that I really am interested in and other places I just can't go to the detail that he was interested in.
I have this sitting in my house. He left coaching too soon for me, and he left this world too soon, just as you start to get to know him.
Well, he'd been asked many times by a number of different organizations what he had used to get to the point where the 49ers were winning Super Bowls. So he was giving talks and giving lectures, and one day he said, why don't I just write a book? He was infamous for having all of his lectures and team meetings videotaped. And it came in really pretty handy when it came to crafting the book, because he could go back and see exactly what was his mindset.
Walsh also looked to the past for a writing partner. He found one in a former 49ers public relations assistant turned NFL coach.
I think how antiquated we used to be, but I had a little cassette tape recorder, little mini cassettes that I would literally tape our conversations.
What's tending to happen now to the head coach is he's becoming more press secretary and less coach.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating to be able to look at the original manuscript, and I think you can get a sense of the way it was laid out. My writing abilities were only such that I knew we were going to have to bring in an editor to clean up the flow of the book, because this was little more than an outline.
Bill Walsh didn't pay me any money. Didn't bother me then, it doesn't bother me now. I wrote this book primarily because I wanted to get to know Bill Walsh better. I said, Coach Walsh, if we're going to do this, why don't we make this your legacy project? And he said, what's that? And I said, let's do a book that is so comprehensive that no one will ever try to write a similar kind of book, as a rule.
with a legacy as large as Walsh's, there was plenty to write about.
550 pages. That was cut down from a svelte 800 pages. This thing just kept growing and growing.
What this book reminds you of is how meticulous Bill was and how thought out everything was and how specific he was.
The scheduling, you know, down to the minute of this is how the way the player's day is going to go.
Utilization of formations, you know, personnel groups.
How your play should be in a minicamp practice when you only have helmets.
Practice schedules, off-season programs, draft evaluation, everything is in this book right here.
So then Bill decides, well, no, we got to have X's and O's in there.
There's got to be a purpose for any information you give. You're giving them more information than they need.
No, I think this is important here.
But I said, Bill, the minute we put a football diagram in, this thing's going to be shoved on the sports section, and it's not going to sell anywhere near. And he says, I don't care.
Finding the Winning Edge sold just 35,000 copies. Although it went on to become the definitive textbook for running an NFL franchise, its author was tortured by the imperfections he saw within it.
It just wasn't good enough, you know, but that sort of seemed to be how a lot of things had been for him. Even if this was a success, he would still somehow find a way to not consider it one.
Coming up.
I'd be on the phone with him in half an hour, and I'm trying to convince him not to jump off the bridge, that he might win next Sunday.